Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephania Cox. Israel kills a Hezbollah terrorist leader in a retaliatory strike. What could this mean for growing tensions in the region? The FBI has yet to find evidence of a possible motive behind the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Here, senators question the FBI and Secret Service leadership during a special hearing. Meta agrees to a record settlement with Texas to end a privacy lawsuit. What were officials in the Lone Star State alleging, and how much is the tech giant paying? Sanctions issued today over Iran's aerial weapons development. The U.S. accuses various individuals and companies of acting as fronts. Two of the firms are based in China. Protests in Venezuela are escalating and international pressure is mounting following allegations of a rigged election. How President Biden is now getting involved. Ariane Pazdar is in South America. Federal regulators issue a recall for millions of Tesla vehicles. Don Maud tells us what the issue is. Israeli military forces carried out a targeted strike in Beirut today. It was against the Hezbollah commander they said was responsible for a strike in the Golan Heights this weekend. The Hezbollah attack killed 12 children and teens and injured dozens more. This video shows the area in Beirut where Israeli defense forces say the strike killed the senior Hezbollah terrorist leader. The targeted strike was conducted in an area known to be a Hezbollah stronghold. In a social media post issued today, moments following the attack, Israel's defense minister says, quote, Hezbollah crossed the red line with a deadly attack Saturday. The IDF didn't provide any further details of the strike. There's no word of the fate of the terrorist leader, who was on a federal government terrorist watch list. And the Senate Homeland Security and Judiciary Committees held a joint hearing on the attempted assassination of former President Trump today. Senators examined the security failures leading up to the event. They heard testimonies from U.S. Secret Service Acting Director and FBI Deputy Director. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on this story.
The Senate's Homeland Security Chairman, Senator Gary Peters, called the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump an attack on democracy.
So let me be clear. This was an attack on our democracy. Americans should be able to attend a political rally and express their political beliefs without fear of violence.
The Republican ranking member of the Senate's Judiciary Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham, insisted that accountability is necessary for change to be enacted.
If this happened in the military, a lot of people would be fired. And if a lot of people are not fired, the system failed yet again. We need to learn what happened, make corrective action, but somebody's got to be fired. Nothing's going to change until somebody loses their job.
U.S. Secret Service Acting Director Ronald Rowe used his opening remarks to debunk conspiracy theories and apologize for the lack of timely transparency.
I regret that information was not passed to Congress and the public sooner with greater frequency. The Secret Service counter-sniper neutralized the assailant within seconds after the assailant fired his weapon. That counter-sniper had full discretion to use deadly force to stop an attacker and did not need to seek authorization to fire.
FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate did not give any evidence of the shooter's possible motive, but did comment on possible leads that the investigation is following.
While the investigation has not determined motive, the investigative team continues to review information. Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes.
Over 2 weeks after the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, the FBI has revealed that they have not been able to access all of the information in the shooter's phone. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
And next, Meta has agreed to a record $1.4 billion settlement with Texas to end a privacy lawsuit. Officials in the Lone Star State had alleged that the tech giant used biometric data of users without their permission. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said the settlement is the largest secured by a single state. In 2021, a judge approved a $650 million settlement with the company over similar claims in Illinois. That same year, Meta announced that it was shutting down its facial recognition system. The tech giant also deleted the face prints of more than 1 billion people. Meta said in a statement that it was pleased to resolve the matter. The company added that it looked forward to exploring future opportunities in Texas. The $1.4 billion settlement is unlikely to make a dent in Meta's business. The California-based tech company made a more than $12 billion profit in the first quarter of this year. Revenue was over $36 billion, a 27% increase from a year earlier. Meta is scheduled to report its second quarter earnings on Wednesday. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And the U.S. Treasury Department issued sanctions today to several people and businesses with ties to Iran's weapons program. The group includes a pair of tech firms based in China.
The Treasury Department says Beijing's Shiny Knights Technology Development and Shenzhen Ryan Technology acted as front companies for Iran. Both firms are accused of providing materials for Iran's missile and drone weapon systems. A Treasury official says Iran's continued development of missile and drone weapons is a danger to civilians around the globe. He said of today's sanctions, quote, "The United States will continue to impose costs on those that facilitate Iran's ability to produce these deadly weapons." The sanctioned individuals and companies are blocked from doing business or having any financial interests in the U.S. The Treasury is also warning any person or businesses from engaging with anyone on the sanctions list. The office notes financial institutions and other persons that engage in certain transactions or activities with the sanctioned entities and individuals may expose themselves to sanctions or be subject to an enforcement action.
President Biden now taking steps to respond to Venezuela's election results. That's as protests in the country are beginning to grow, with citizens toppling socialist statues. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the story from Brazil.
President Biden had a phone call with the president of Brazil on Tuesday afternoon. Now, this comes as U.S. officials keep raising concerns about the elections in Venezuela. They say that the incumbent socialist government might have committed election fraud. And Brazil was supposed to oversee these elections, but withdrew from the committee just last week. Now, the readout of Biden's call hasn't been released just yet, so it's not exactly clear what they talked about. Protests have erupted in Venezuela after the Electoral Council declared that socialist president Nicolas Maduro won the election against challenger Edmundo Gonzalez. These videos, exclusively obtained by NTD, show protesters taking down a Maduro campaign poster and then burning it on the street. A group of people also took down a statue of former socialist leader Hugo Chavez. In other parts of the country, people threw objects at the police as fires broke out and police in anti-riot gear showed up to stop the protests. On Tuesday, President Maduro denounced the protests against his regime.
The extreme right planned this. They were screaming fraud 15 days before the elections. They didn't sign the agreement to recognize the election results.
Venezuela's Electoral Council never released the actual voting results. The opposition had a strong lead in most polls and still hasn't accepted the results. On Monday, Venezuela's opposition said it gathered around 70% of the voting tallies, claiming it won the election against Maduro. Panama has now ended diplomatic relations with Venezuela, while Peru ordered Venezuelan diplomats to leave the country. The US might consider sanctions, but has not made an official decision yet. Reporting in Brazil, Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And in the U.S., freight rail company Norfolk Southern is facing legal troubles. The Department of Justice is suing the firm for delaying passenger traffic. The DOJ is specifically accusing the freight rail giant of knowingly delaying Amtrak's New Orleans to New York route. The civil lawsuit was filed Tuesday in D.C. District Court. The Justice Department claims Norfolk Southern regularly fails to give Amtrak trains preference over its freight trains as required by federal law. That, the DOJ lawyers argue, has led to widespread delays. Amtrak controls more than 1,100 miles of rail line on what it calls the Crescent Route. U.S. lawmakers are working to hold the World Anti-Doping Agency accountable, but it's receiving pushback in light of instances of Olympic Chinese doping. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us from Capitol Hill. Jack, what's the latest on this?
Good afternoon, Steph. Well, yeah, here we have bipartisan, bicameral legislation being introduced. That means both the House and the Senate and Republicans and Democrats are coming together on this to introduce legislation that would essentially stop funding the World Anti-Doping Agency, which the U.S. is the largest funder of, providing $3.7 million last year. And this all stems from back when 20 Chinese swimmers tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug called TMZ, which increases stamina and shortens recovery time. And this was back just months before the 2020 Olympics. Now, WADA was told by Chinese officials that the swimmers were food poisoned by bad hamburger meat. WADA took the Chinese claims at face value and allowed those swimmers to compete. But news of this, all of this, the investigation and the fact that they let them compete and the controversy that surrounded it, didn't even emerge until years later. And that's what lawmakers are so upset about. Take a look.
WADA failed to follow its own rule book here. These positive tests were hidden from the public and remained secret for 3 years.
Instead of working with us to ensure an even playing field, WADA has worked against us at every turn.
The athletes are the reason we have the Paralympic and Olympic Games, yet their best interests are not represented in the biggest rooms over and over again.
Athletes, deserve, just like we've heard here, they deserve to show up knowing that the rules have been applied consistently across the globe as they are supposed to be applied. And they need that so that they can have faith that their dedications, hard work, sacrifices are going to mean as much as they should.
Now, as you can see, WADA came out today saying that all of these claims surrounding alleged illegitimacy and covering things up are untrue. They issued this statement today saying, quote, "As we've seen over recent months, WADA has been unfairly caught in the middle of geopolitical tensions between superpowers, but has no mandate to participate in that." And that's end of quote. The 2028 Olympics are scheduled to be held in Utah, but the International Olympic Committee said that if WADA isn't respected, that could be revoked and no longer be happening in Utah. Lawmakers' response was that international bodies are working to silence an investigation into this. Take a look.
This brazen attempt by the IOC and WADA to force Utah to interfere in an investigation would win the gold medal in blackmail.
I feel like that threat was somehow written in Beijing. That seems like something that the CCP would say, which they routinely say to try to coerce others to get their way. We're not going to back down.
And earlier this year, the Department of Justice implemented an investigation. They're now investigating this incident. And 11 of the Olympic swimmers that tested positive for that TMZ performance-enhancing drug back in 2020 are competing now in the Paris Olympics. Steph, back to you.
Jack, thanks as always. Great report. Next up, New York City Comptroller Brad Lander announced today that he'll be challenging Mayor Eric Adams in next year's mayoral election. Top on his agenda are the city's budget, affordable living, and childcare. NTD's Fiona G. brings us the details.
New York City Comptroller Brad Lander released a campaign video Tuesday morning highlighting problems New Yorkers face and saying that the city deserves a leader who can solve those problems.
Nothing can replace New York City, but we can replace a leader when they fail the basic tests of the job. To be honest with us, to keep our families safe, to make sure our kids learn.
The announcement comes as Mayor Adams' approval rating has dropped to 24% according to a poll from April. He's also facing a federal investigation over alleged illegal campaign funding. Lander has focused on the city's budgeting issues. Protests arose earlier this year when proposed budget cuts impacted New York City public libraries and public schools, though those cuts were later rolled back. Last year, the Comptroller limited Adams' emergency spending powers, saying the mayor's administration lacked transparency over illegal immigrant spending. Lander has been openly critical of Adams' handling of the crisis. The mayor responded briefly to Lander's candidacy at a press briefing.
I knew he was doing an announcement. I thought his announcement was to go to assist the first woman of color to be the president of the United States, not take the second man of color from being the mayor of the city of New York. I think we need to be focused on one mission. The mission is electing VP Harris, and that's what I'm focused on.
Adams became New York City mayor in 2022, right on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic. He has been running on a platform of lowering crime and increasing jobs. Meanwhile, Lander has focused heavily on police reform over the course of his political career. Currently, 2 other Democrats have also joined in the mayoral race. If Lander wins, he will be the first New York City comptroller to become mayor in 5 decades. An expert has said that this may not necessarily be the end for Adams despite low ratings. That is, if he takes this chance to readjust and improve. Fiona G., NTD News.
And over to the West Coast, firefighters say the largest wildfire in the U.S. grew to nearly 600 square miles today. That's an area larger than the city of Los Angeles. More than 5,000 firefighters from California and other states were working to put out the park fire. The blaze is burning in the state's Central Valley, about 90 miles north of Sacramento. The fire is now the 6th largest wildfire in California history. CAL FIRE said the flames are rapidly moving, fueled by dry grass, brush, and timber. According to the National Weather Service, there's only a slight chance of thunderstorms today. Temperatures will reach 100 degrees tomorrow. Helicopters were also deployed today to battle the Nixon fire. That blaze is scorching Riverside County in Southern California. And heavy rain in northern Vermont has caused flash floods and has washed out some roads. This is nearly 3 weeks after many farmers and residents in the state were hit by flooding from the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. Emergency crews performed dozens of rescues because of the severe weather. The National Weather Service in Burlington says some areas received 6 to 8 inches of rain beginning late Monday, which caused flash flooding. Flood warnings for the area were issued through Tuesday morning. The majority of the rain fell in St. Johnsbury and surrounding areas, about 35 miles northeast of the state capital of Montpelier. Forecasters say more rain was possible for the region. When we come back, the feds have issued a recall for more than 1 million Tesla vehicles. We'll tell you the reason for the recall. And the state of Mississippi makes a dramatic transformation from 49th to 21st in elementary literacy. We'll tell you what's behind this remarkable improvement after the break.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming. But your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Welcome back. Victory for the U.S. women's gymnastics team. They just snagged the team gold medal at the Olympics finals today. Their last gold medal in the category was back in 2016. Simone Biles led the charge, excelling in all 4 events despite a calf injury just 48 hours prior. The win comes after Biles withdrew from competing during the 2021 Tokyo Summer Olympics. And Team USA won silver in the event that year. Biles now has 8 Olympic medals, more than any other American gymnast. And federal regulators issue a recall notice for Tesla, and Americans are feeling a little better about the economy. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Thank you, Steph. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has issued a recall notice for nearly 2 million Teslas because of a hood issue. So according to the notice, there's a risk the car's software could fail to detect an unlatched hood. That could cause the hood to suddenly fly open and obstruct the driver's view. Impacted vehicles include Model S, Model X, Model 3, and Model 7 from 2017 to 2024. And Tesla has released a software update to fix the issue. No injuries have been reported, and this is the latest large product recall involving software problems for Tesla. Last year, the company issued software updates for almost all of its vehicles to add more safeguards for its autopilot system. Meanwhile, American consumers felt more confident in July as expectations over the near-term future rebounded, a business research group said on Tuesday. Its Consumer Confidence Index measures both Americans' assessment of current economic conditions and their outlook for the next 6 months. So elevated prices for food and groceries remain the main drivers of consumers' view of the U.S. economy. Consumers remain relatively positive about the labor market. The number of respondents who said they planned to purchase a home fell to a 12-year low as elevated interest rates and sky-high home prices, as well as a lack of supply, continue to discourage home shoppers. And finally, U.S. job openings fell slightly last month. This is a sign that the American labor market continues to cool in the face of high interest rates. There were 8.18 million job vacancies in June, the Labor Department said Tuesday. The June number was stronger than expected. Still, the report showed other signs of a slowing job market. Employers hired the fewest number of people since April 2020, when the pandemic was hammering the economy. That's all from me, Steph. Back to you.
10 years ago, Mississippi's elementary students ranked near the bottom in literacy. Today, the state has soared to the 21st spot in the nation. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with the Mississippi Department of Education Literacy's director about how the state achieved those results.
Mississippi ranked 49th in the United States for elementary school literacy 10 years ago. Fourth graders were essentially an entire grade level behind the rest of the nation. In 2023, 85% of third graders passed the state reading test, thanks to a shift from balanced literacy to the science of reading approach. In balanced literacy, students are taught to use cues to guess words and then memorize them. The science of reading approach uses phonics, so students understand how words look and sound as they acquire vocabulary.
the systems of language is explicit, it's systematic. There's a scope and sequence of foundational skills that have to be taught to students that go from very easy skills to more complex skills. And, you know, so it's really like that really direct type of reading instruction where we're not playing a guessing game.
Mississippi Department of Education Literacy Director Kristen Wells-Wynn says they created key strategies and an early literacy policy that was very detailed to implement the changes.
We had to go back and retrain all of our teachers. We had to go back and retrain all of our leaders, retrain all of our IHL professors. And so we opened up professional development grounded in the science of reading at all stakeholder levels. And so we offered that free to all educators from the state level.
They also put coaching support in place to help classroom teachers take those practices and implement them in their classrooms. Parents got involved as well.
We started training our parents, really having those family nights with parents. We had individual reading plans that we gave students that are part of our law. So those were some, you know, the key things that really helped drive change for us in Mississippi.
Some districts initially resisted the changes, not letting teachers and leaders to even participate in the professional training.
But what happened was when that first set of kindergarten readiness data started to be publicized, and now you start seeing districts who historically their students have not, you know, necessarily performed well, outperform districts, then, you know, now that there's their question of is, you know, what's happening? You know, maybe we've been doing this not the right way. Maybe we've been doing it, you know, the wrong way.
Carrie M. Wright led the changes as Mississippi's Superintendent of Education. She took over as the head of Maryland's Department of Education in early July. Her first order of business will be to oversee the same transition of reading instruction in Maryland. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Now, nature can sometimes be bizarre and a little scary. That's what beachgoers in Rhode Island found out this weekend when thousands of dragonflies descended on them. Eyewitness footage from Saturday shows a massive dragonfly swarm near Miscomquot Beach in westerly Rhode Island. Local media reported that beachgoers said the swarm came down like a black cloud, causing people to flee. But as terrifying as that sounds, experts say getting caught in a dragonfly swarm poses no risk to humans. Dragonflies in North America migrate each year in late summer and early fall. They're an important part of ecosystems since they eat mosquitoes and other insects. So nothing to worry about there. All right, thank you so much for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. See you tomorrow.